Welcome, folks, to the Knights of the Wrong Table. As always, I'm John.
And I am Randall.
And we have our special guest today, Zach. Zach, thank you for coming back on the podcast.
John, Randall, thanks for creating the space, by the way. These are dope podcasts. I had a really good time last time, so it was easy to come back.
Awesome. Well, yes, very good to hear. And once we get a physical studio up and going, hopefully we can make the next podcast tour. So that'd be pretty cool.
Well, dude, that'd be so cool. Where are you guys located? Where would the studio be?
We are in the Seattle area.
Seattle. Okay. So
I'm down in Portland, Oregon. He's up in Seattle. So Pacific Northwest to both of us.
I've never been to Pacific Northwest. I think I've been to every other region of the country, actually.
You're missing out, man. It's truly beautiful. It is sometimes described as having a partner who's sick 9 months out of the year, but those 3 months of the summer really are something special. And especially in Washington, I would say the late summer, early fall is truly, in my opinion, the best season in the Northwest. So
is the golf any good? I know Randall wants to talk fishing, but I gotta get my golf. Is anybody golf here?
Golf is fantastic. Oh, yeah. We've got some really great courses in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, Portland, real mountain area. If you get out to Central Oregon, all the way up through the Seattle, Chambers Bay. They had it for the U.S. Open when John and I were in college. One of the years they had the U.S. Open there.
Yeah, Chambers.
Fantastic golf courses up here. The problem is you can't really play late fall through the winter because it's just too wet. It's just far too wet.
Got it. Okay, so balls getting stuck in the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But springtime through the summer, absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
Well, Delaware's kind of underrated too because we got the beach courses as well. I love.
Oh yeah.
I just love golf, man. I really do. That is in all of the craziness going on in the world. Golf, fishing, hunting, even
anything that gets you outside, gets you moving. Yeah.
Even
takes
some
your mind off of it.
Or yoga, like getting offline and just kind of inward with your thoughts.
Yeah, the problem is when you get back to reality, you pick up your cell phone, you see all the message alerts come across. You're like, oh God,
the world.
Some of them feel fake these days.
How do you weigh the? I guess the balance being between, on one side you have protecting your peace, feeling at one with yourself, feeling fulfilled, grateful, all that. And then also being able to ingest the realities of what we know the world to be. How do you balance that?
Sometimes I feel like I don't. Sometimes I feel like I don't, and it's a losing battle.
With the things that we're being asked these days to balance, like I could have probably had an answer for you, 5-10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But like with the like we're being asked to balance the fact that we pay taxes to evil overlord billionaires that may be eating children. Like what?
And that's become common, like dinner party conversation amongst millennials and Gen Z now.
I don't know, man. I think that like I said, anything that gets your mind away from headline news for any amount of time, it needs to be done, especially for a guy like yourself. Like you consume a lot of news, you output a lot of news, so like I should ask you the same question. Like how do you decompress from it all?
I'll be honest with you, right now I'm kind of in so like personal growth has always been this really cool thing for me. Okay, so my daughter's getting this is a pertinent story. So my daughter's getting really into Pokemon. We started watching the Indigo season 97. They're like the OG. We're like almost to the end. And I think then we get to watch the first movie canonically. So that'll be dope. But now we got Pokemon Go this last couple weeks. And she's obsessed with this opportunity to now increase the level of the Pokemon and grow and battle. And I remember that feeling. And that feeling carried into my adult life. I always wanted to gamify things. And one of these gamifications that I kind of grew to establish in my day-to-day culture with myself is this ideology of growth, being an investor in myself, not a consumer of myself. And self-growth is never a straight line, like a diagonal line up. It has these valleys where I feel you actually have to go dark sometimes to come out brighter. There's like this, some people call it like the J swoosh, like it's like a Nike swoosh, like with anything self-development wise, or even physical skill wise. Let's say you want to take up skiing. right? You get out there, your brain's never skied, you've never used your arms and legs like this, you've never had to hold your knees tight and do a pizza hot dog, like you have no clue what's going on. You're screaming down a hill, other people might laugh at you.
Pizza, pizza.
Right. You're like, so your brain is just taking all of this in, and how many times you have to do badly at it before you even marginally start to stop, being bad and just stay pretty consistently just neutrally okay. And then you're going to stay there for quite a while, and that's where a lot of people quit. When they're just in that neutral okay stage, you're not seeing that large amount of growth from when they came in. It's often like the gym. In the gym, they'll call it rookie gains, because your muscles will grow in those first 3-4 months of resistance training more than like
More than
any
they
other time in
would,
your yeah, because
yeah,
it's
exponentially
such
more.
an explosion to your body. You're like, what's going on? We've never done this. We got to over prepare ourselves to prepare for next time. So with self-development, man, I think there's no better time than now to realize that what we know isn't going away. Right? And I feel like we're in that J swoosh right now where things are feeling right here. But all of us personally, you just need to keep trucking and keep going, because there is growth in the knowledge of, hey, everything's under the control of devil worshiping pedophiles. Okay. Well, that means there's a God, just based off the fact of polarity. Like if there's a devil to worship, if there are demons and balls and things of this such, like, okay, there's a God. That means there is something I could cling to. That means there is a purpose. I'm not just here to suffer. I think there are deeper things that can be discovered. And to be more practical with you, breathing exercises like Wim Hof breathing. Andrew Huberman has a really good deep rest state breathing method. It's like 20, 30 minutes. I love Tony Robbins, the books, the seminars I'm in. Um, he just finished his like free 3-day one you can find on YouTube. Um, I'm big into priming meditations. I've done the gateway tapes from the CIA.
Oh, okay.
I'm really into my mental space. I'm really into having geographies in my brain that only I have access to, that I can go to in those times.
I think that it's cool that you talk about the Nike, the pit. I call it like the pit, right?
Love it.
And I feel like through this, when we're chugging along, is a lot of people are waking up, right? And the awakening, I feel like this kind of collective consciousness awakening that we're going through is cool to see, but it is like you're saying, people will be in the pit for a while, and then it's gonna take trucking along, chugging at it to get up over the pit, and especially with just how enmeshed we are with information these days, right? It's bombarding us constantly, right? So
Well, what deeper pit is there than discovering everything you thought was either your country or what you stood for is kind of fake, or for money? I think there's no greater moment in anyone's life than getting to that pit, and like, that's a great way of putting it, man. That pit, and be like, okay, this is just for money, right? I'm a cog in a system. I'm an ant in the anthill. Like, and I think there's just also there's choice you can make too of just being like, okay, I'm fine with that, and just being cool with it and being all right with it. Uh, and I
I
think it's
think
a path that
that's
a lot of people take.
I think that's the path that a lot of the generations prior to us uh, took and are taking, right? And you see when they're presented with this now, I feel like a lot of them, it's just some apathy, right? Like just, well, it
Man,
doesn't
I would have
affect
wanted to
me, so
be
I don't
around in the
care.
60s. I need to see what life was like in the 60s when the CIA's coming out and be like, yeah, we had a heart attack gun. We didn't use it during the Cold War. We thought about it. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like, and you guys just went to the grocery store after that? Like, I this like there wasn't any like the sports industry wasn't big. Hollywood's blooming. There aren't any huge crises or anything really huge on the economic map. Like, what kept y'all from looking around and being like, what the fuck is no, what else is happening? Or
Yeah.
or or is it like when the reins were being taken during Reaganomics, like out of the savings crisis of 79? And Paul Volcker, who's a member of the Rockefellers Trilateral Commission that we see reconfirmed in the Epstein files, comes into the Federal Reserve. He's the chairman then. during Reaganomics. Then we
Mhm.
also have people like Peter Peterson, who would go on to start Blackstone on Nixon's or on Reagan's commission. I said Nixon, Reagan on Reagan's commission, as well as Henry Kissinger, and all these people we know today to be just crooks, um, forming and creating and ripping apart great deal legislation in the 80s, and then Clinton takes the torch with NAFTA and Glass-Steagall, and then Bush just does Bush thing. I feel like they just put Bush in there like, "Look, 9/11, the housing crisis, it's gonna be a shitty term. Can you do it?" Uh, and then it's kinda sealed and delivered during Citizens United 2010. COVID, you create this K-shaped effect. The elite get to grow exponentially. The lower class slowly lose oxygen. I think we're just in a case of people aren't running toward anything anymore. They're running from something. They're running from what
And
they're scared of.
all of this is decided at the Bohemian Grove the previous summer before the elections, where they
Well, apparently, the Bohemian Grove does breed a large chunk of the Trilateral Commission, who's
there's been a large chunk of ex-presidents have all come out of there too.
yeah, especially on the Republican conservative side, conservative secretaries of commerce, advisors on economic policy, foreign policy. Yeah, I mean, I think Al Gore, I think, was one. I don't want to misspeak names, but quite a few, especially on the conservative side. And we even see Heritage Foundation members in that. And that dips into Project 2025 and the breeding of a Peter Thiel type person into a JD Vance, and how they're still, even though some would view Trump as not on the Bohemian Grove side, between things like CIA directors and otherwise. I mean, he
Yeah, but
has
he's controllable.
oh my God. And then you
I
get into
mean,
the Epstein,
he may
right?
not be on the actual team, but he's definitely controllable, and beyond that, he has the populist side that all of them have like spent money to avoid in their careers. You know.
So I have this theory about Trump. You want to hear it? It's kind of kooky.
Yeah, we like theories about Trump.
It's kind of
Always.
kooky. So I grew up a big Kanye West fan. Big Kanye West fan. My big brother John, he was my brother from a mother. Played basketball all the time together, and we're always jamming out to Kanye. He introduced me to Kanye. I was like 7th grade. That was like when Heartless was coming out, 808 and Heartbreak. You're getting into some just absolute classics. You're living in the prime of Kanye West. And I've always been a fan. And then one day he starts making music that really isn't the same type of music. And I'm like, okay, I'll still kind of listen, but I'm not a diehard fan anymore. And then I slowly watch him go crazy. I was like, oh shit, that's nuts. He's nuts now. And it's wild how now you look back, and I have in the past year or so looked back and seen that, though his delivery was a little offbeat, he was usually talking about some really real stuff. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff that we have confirmed today. But the problem is, see, Kanye was really deep with the Diddy's and the Jay-Z's back in that prime, the prime of Diddy and Jay-Z's black market careers, especially Diddy's. And there's so many reports of Kanye being involved in some bad stuff. I have a theory that Kanye West was involved in a lot of the tyranny that goes on in those worlds, and then decided to back off, and then felt the guilt. Knows he can't come out about it because he was as well implicated, but he's going to start layering it into his music. And that's when his music started sounding different.
Yeah, there's a couple of music videos too, I think, that he's made that had Bill Gates featured and P.
Right.
Diddy featured.
I see
and
where
things
you're
like
going
that.
with this
that was
with
New
Trump,
Workout
though.
Plan.
I see
The
where
New
you're
Workout
going.
Plan music video. So with Trump, I do honestly feel that throughout the 80s, 90s, 70s, when he's mentioned with these Roy Cohns, these gangster lawyers, Robert Maxwell's, and of course, like the Epsteins, the Clintons, like all the same people. When you look at Ron Lauder, when you look at Howard Lutnick, when you look at Alexander Acosta, even the Pam Bondis, like you see clear and obvious signs of corruption. And I think that through a certain time period, that's exactly who he was. I think that there's a theory that in that 2005, 2006-ish range, and I think we do have an Epstein file now that says in '06 that he did and say something to the effect of, thank goodness you got him, to the FBI. Not to say that he wasn't at one point a part of it or made possibly
It
him
was
fall, but
to the Fort Lauderdale police or something, or
Fort
the
Lauderdale
Miami-Dade
police, you're right.
police.
Thanks for
Yeah.
correcting me. Um, that there's a possibility that, yes, he's controllable via the blackmail of what he had done in the past, But maybe he genuinely does want to drain the swamp, but just lacks the power to do so. And at the end of the day, he's still a bumbling idiot who seems to be nothing but a racist and a misogynist 90% of the time. I mean, there's not a lot good you could say about the guy, but I think there are theories of he was at once a part of it and then he wasn't. He's tried to distance himself from it. And kind of similar to what I think maybe a Kanye did. But again, I have no evidence that either of those two people had that, or that they weren't always involved, or that they were never involved. It's just interesting when you separate the two between one's an artist and one's the leader of the free world. One's the one to be, sitting in the rooms with delegates of other countries, and you wonder, is this guy a either current or past malicious sexual predator, and according to the files, murderer, serial assaulter, co-conspirator? That's insane to think of, that at the very least it's seemingly not getting talked about or investigated at that.
So with people that we do have evidence of pretty substantially and catching people in web of lies, um, how far does the Letnick relationship go? The
Can I bring up my
Letnick,
screen for
Trump,
those on the video?
Epstein. Yep.
I'm gonna bring up my screen. And for those listening, I'll do my best to be a good baseball announcer and cover everything.
The play-by-play stat announcer. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'll try to be my best Tony Romo impression. All right. I almost like Collinsworth. Like, that was a good play-by-play guy. All right.
Yeah, by the way, this was quite a bit of work. I took a deep dive and was looking at this, and this was quite a bit of work you did on this.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. Yeah, we've been working on it. Jay,
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
yeah,
This
over
is
here we got the
the Sunny
Rothschild
meme.
family tree. Yeah, the Rothschild family tree I'm building out right now. For my listeners, we got some orange and green lines that showcase the uncompleted rough draft family tree, starting from 1550 with Moses Rothschild and the Goodberth Rothschild, Naphtali Hirsch Rothschild, Amschel Moses, and then Mayor Amschel Rothschild, the most famous, who then would create the 5 sons that would rule the 5 main European banks: Frankfurt, Naples, London, Vienna, Paris. What's interesting about this family tree is all the orange lines show next of kin, kids. The green lines are interfamily marriages.
Wow.
Wonderful.
For those listening, the good, probably 13 green lines that intertwine between 5 families. And I'm not done. I'm only 1 generation through. I'm working now on the 2nd generation. So the kids. And we're going to work our way all the way up today, where an Epstein is now in direct connection with 5 different Rothschilds, and negotiated a bailout between a Swiss bank run by the Rothschilds and the DOJ. It's like, what? You got paid $15 million for being in the middle of negotiating with the DOJ? Wild. But Howard Lutnick has a few branches. I'll try to be concise with this. For one, he's the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. Number 2, he's handed his power of Cantor Fitzgerald off to his sons. And Cantor Fitzgerald was also 1/4. It's actually closer to 1/5, but somewhere in the middle. If you round it, it'd probably be 1/4 still. 1/4. Let me get the exact number. I have it here. Why am I guessing? 2,753 people died on 9/11. 58 of them worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. And 58 of his 960 employees died that day, and they were open for business, by the way, 2 days later. Almost
Yeah,
1/4 of the people killed.
their offices was the top 4 or 5 floors of one of the
Not
towers.
the exact top. They were floor 101 to 105.
Yeah, there you
The
go.
impact zone was, I believe it's 91 up to 98-ish, or 93 to 98-ish. So they were just above the impact. They were trapped until it fell. And there were a few floors above. Lutnick worked on 105. But yeah, Lutnick, there's a lot to go down. So for one thing, he was supposed to be there on 9/11. He wasn't there, blames his kid, dropped him off for school, first time in 20 years. Even though we have this nyc.gov document that says school started between either the September 5th or September 6th of that year. Though this was a private school, I graduated from a private school. I played ball with a bunch of other private schools, and we all had the same schedule where school actually started earlier than public, usually end of August, first week of September. And the carrot on the stick was always our summer would start earlier, and it did. And I don't know, but Cantor also pocketed some of the payout. So from American Airlines, by 2013, they got a payout of 135 million, and he personally pocketed anywhere between 15 to 25 million, and that's two of his executives that worked on his board that said that. And then when he's been questioned about it, he's never denied it. That would be something I would deny pretty quickly if
He
it was
he
true.
wasn't living at the time of this. He wasn't living at the address near Jeffrey Epstein, right? Because he didn't move into there till 2005, right?
Oh, actually, okay, so let me
I'm
skip.
jumping
Yeah,
ahead.
I'll skip to that. I'll skip to that. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. So we'll skip past his sons. So Howard was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. Now, he actually bought the property. We can see over here. He actually bought the property. Here's the deed. Howard Lutnick, right up here, formerly living at 200 East 69th Street, for $10, purchases 11 East 71st Street. He actually purchased this. You can see the recorded date right here is 1996 when it was originally bought by the prior, 1998 when it's being purchased right now on
Oh,
the
so he did own it, but he just didn't renovate it or live in it at the time.
correct. It hadn't been
Okay.
renovated yet. So
That makes
26th day of
that's
January, 1998, he buys the property from Comet Trust. Comet Trust, by the way, is owned by, oh, if I could work this, Guido Goldman was the trustee on this document when it was purchased from Comet Trust. He is Nahum Goldman's son, and Nahum Goldman was the World Jewish Congress president and president of the World Zionist Organization. So
Damn.
this property's been passed down pretty strategically. See if you catch it. Because then on the next one, when Comet Trust bought it in 1996, guess who they bought it from? Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, trustee of the 11th East 71st Street Trust, December 15th, 1992 is when he bought it. So we look at the 1992 transaction. Who'd he buy it from? He bought it from a company called Sam Conversion Corps in 1988. So this was Epstein's property in 88.
Formed by Wexner. Oh my God.
It has the
Damn.
same, and so Epstein's trust and Sam Conversion Liquidating are both housed at 41 South High Street, which is indeed Les Wexner's Victoria's Secret Limited Brands address.
these buildings, when he started the renovations on the properties, it was more than one unit too, right? Aren't there like 4 or 5
I've
units that are there?
heard
So
mixed stories on that. I think at one point it was a single property and it had been sectioned off. I've not been able to find whether or not Wexner, or I'm sorry, Freudian slip, Lutnick is living in a section or a unit of the property versus the whole thing. It would have to be private if so, because there's no units listed on the address. Normally
well,
in real
because
estate, you'd have, unit 1, unit 2, or unit
yeah,
204,
it'd be
206.
broken down to A, B, C, or something like that.
Yeah,
But
and there
in
isn't anything associated with that address.
in my mind, and to that podcast he did where he lied out his teeth, where he was talking about, oh, I never met that
Hey, 1
gross,
second,
gross
Randall.
man. But yeah, in my mind, that podcast he did where he was lying out of his teeth, talking about,
Yes.
that I won't be around that gross, gross man. He was talking about how I've never seen the exterior of these buildings, but I know kind of what those buildings in New York look like around that area, where it's very, very close, and you'll have one entrance to a building here and another one that goes right up next to it with a set of stairs, and then another one next to it. And
Mhm.
if Lutnick bought this property in 98 that was distressed and had to renovate it from Jeffrey Epstein's, shell via corporation through Guido Goldman, I think you said.
Mhm. Yep.
Who does that mean that Jeffrey Epstein at one point owned multiple of these homes along that line? And like, does
Yes.
he?
And
So
that
who?
block is associated with quite a few billionaires as well.
That's what I was going to ask. Because who else still owns buildings in that area would be one of my next things to investigate. Because like, you wouldn't be getting a building in that area unless it was allowed to you by this group.
Yeah, I believe the 11 has been purchased at this point. Or I'm sorry, 9 has been purchased, Epstein's former residence. I could be wrong about that. I know one of his properties
Gross.
sold off. That could have been the
Should
Palm
burn
Beach.
that thing down.
Yeah. I know a few are still being held by trust. I know Zora Ranch has been sold to, another
Sold,
Trump guy
yeah, and
down in
that one's been sold
Texas.
to someone who's also just as equally as sketchy.
So here, speaking of sketchy, so when the property was sold, and again, I don't know what to point this at, but again, 9/11 seems to be a core tenet in a lot of this, and we don't have a lot of the files that would be dated during the time frame of mid '99 to about early 2000. And you have mentions of shadow commissions, and you have mentions of a lot. But one thing I haven't heard a lot of people talk about is this guy named Gary Pollard. He's a notary in New York, and he was the notary that Epstein picked because buyers usually get to set that in New York, from what I'm told. I could be completely wrong, and please correct me if I am. The notary on this deal. So maybe Comet Trust picked it, but either way, New York guy. Comet Trust is actually based out of New Haven, Connecticut. Epstein's out of New York. So again, figuring this New York notary picked by Jeffrey Epstein. Let me play a quick clip for you. And I also have that podcast clip I can play for those that haven't heard it of Howard Lutnick. This is a video that was posted by that notary. And if it's going to play, I'm going to let it buffer for just a quick moment. He's showing the buildings both hit at this point.
And this was posted by the notary or filmed by the notary? That's what I was
This was
asking.
filmed by that notary, yep, and posted at some point. Now the smoke's filling up the streets. Everyone's yelling and screaming around him. People are picking themselves up off the ground, sprinting from the smoke. And you can notice he's literally taking steps forward towards it, waits for the smoke, and waiting to the very last moment with all this chaos around. It's a very interesting video when you think of all the school fights that weren't filmed properly. So again, that's just one extra layer, and here's the confirmation of that. That's just one extra layer of all of this.
Where was his office based?
Gary Pollard?
Yeah.
I haven't looked it up. I've not looked it up. I should though. Also shared tab audio.
Because that's a busy ass area. That's right out front of Trinity Church there. That's a busy ass area of New York City.
I'm gonna look
And
into
you
that.
wouldn't really, unless you're in one of those surrounding buildings, you wouldn't be on the floor. I mean, I guess that would have been a couple of minutes before they fell down.
So he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors, and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
See, you think that someone with that story that he tries to put out, you'd think that it would be more headline news, the fact that he bought his house essentially from Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. And actively lying about it, and had a deposition where it was called out, and he's over at the State of the Union mucking it up with all the other congressmen and women.
Yeah, I
During the
saw that.
State
He's
of
trying
the
to
Union.
shake hands with people, and he only barely got John Stevens to shake his hands.
Right. Nobody was even about it because, I mean, look,
Yeah.
you have 2009, Howard Lutnick, Epstein. 2011, email, Howard returns your call to Epstein. Drinks happening 2011 in May. That's confirmed right here. Epstein was looking into Lutnick's nanny, which, by the way, how does one get introduced to a nanny without going to their house?
I thought that was interesting also, that he knew the nannies. Jeffrey Epstein knew the nannies' names by email.
Right.
He listed their names when he said that they were visiting. And I thought that
100%.
was weird too, that there wasn't more questions asked about. When he was trying to say, "Oh, I brought my kids," even as like a way to say, "Oh, that's how you know I'm not evil. I
Oh
brought
my
my
goodness.
kids here."
And that email, I think there's 2 things that people aren't talking enough about with that email. Obviously the mass media. 1, his description of his kids. I got it pulled up.
With the
Howard
ages,
Lutnick.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is December 19th, 2012. So this is 7 years after they've supposedly got the tour, and 3.5 years post Epstein serving out his sentence of 2008 of being a child predator. And Lutnick is now going to this, not just his neighbor's house. It's not like he had a Thanksgiving and they were like, Allison, Howard's wife, he's like, Allison, we know he's gross, but it's been 5-7 years. Let's just go over for Thanksgiving. Let's be cordial, right? They're neighbors. Let's try. That you could convince me of. But to say, let's go to the island. We're going to we're going out to your island, not St. Bart's, where some of his parties were held, not somewhere else in the Virgin Islands. We're not going to go see Richard Branson and Epstein might pop through. We're going right to your island. And then, as you alluded to, Randall, he describes his kids saying, each of us has 4 children, 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. As a father, I just don't understand. In any, as a military vet, as a realtor, as a dad, there's no way that I would say that describing your kids like that's normal behavior.
Not just your kids, your friends' kids or whoever you're
Right.
traveling with too.
And you're bringing
Yeah,
your
super
friends'
weird.
kids
This
to
is
a
also this
pedophile's island?
this also isn't just 7-8 years after the walk through the house supposed incident too,
Mhm.
because like I said, bought his home in 20
98.
what 98. So I mean that's 7 years even before that.
Probably had a run in or two. It's very, yeah,
I
that's.
wouldn't sell my house to someone and like want to be their next door neighbor without
The
knowing them
neighbors are
first.
everything in real estate. If I was paying like
In a
10
billionaire
mil for a
neighborhood,
property,
you can't convince me that they didn't have some form of a relationship before selling it. In
well,
a
let me tell
billionaire
you this.
neighborhood, when you're going to
Let me
also
tell you
keep the
this.
property you're
To
living in.
dig deeper into that. So with the $10 thing that was listed on all the contracts, that does not mean the property sold for $10. Okay, more than likely didn't.
What does that mean then?
It's a placeholder, and it's very,
Yeah.
very common in private, high-level real estate sales for an attorney to withhold the actual transferred value from public documentation.
Hmm.
So it's just used as an anonymous placeholder, so there was money
It's
in the
just a
transaction.
part of the deal. Yeah.
Right, and we see that on all the contracts. Now, some might say, "Oh, well, that's something in Lutnick's favor." I argue it could very much be against. Because I double down by finding there's no public record of sale of this property, being that it was marketed at any point. That it never hit an MLS, it never hit any form of public transaction site. Even though those sites didn't exist, they still track records. Um, this home was privately sold. This was word of mouth. This was know somebody.
Yeah. This not like Jeffrey Epstein needed cash or Lex Wessner needed
Exactly. He was
cash.
holding a
These
property.
sales aren't being done because of like, oh, I have this property sitting around, I might as well get rid of it.
Right.
This is like you said, it's part of a deal, and that would indicate some form of a relationship, either business or personal wise,
To the
and
point where
which
his
goes back
wife,
to 1998, further
yeah,
beyond 2005.
and to the point where his wife here, this is the second thing I don't think enough people are talking about, is there's a follow-up email on this meeting where Allison Lutnick, his wife, the other person who he said in the clip was standing right next to him and they decided gross, nasty, is emailing the pedophile saying, "Hi, this is Allison. We're looking forward to visiting you. We'll be coming to Canal Bay in the morning. We're a crowd, 2 families, each with 4 kids ranging from 7 to 16, 6 boys and 2 girls. I hope that's okay." It's just another maybe less odd behavior, but you don't even have to read the email. The fact that there's any email being sent, like, maybe she's in the back thinking, "Oh my God, I cannot believe we're going to this guy's island. I can't believe you convinced me that we're doing this." And he's like, "We got to do it. It's politics." Like, he's blah, blah, "You don't get it, blah, blah, blah." No, she's like actively like making sure the details are being met and keeping things organized.
And then what was her Lutwick's wife's connection to Prince Andrew? She had one with his wife, like they're friends.
So there's no connection. So I should delete this little part right here. This is more Lutnick. And I didn't have a connector in. So there's no connection to Prince Andrew here. So for Sarah, this is Sarah Ferguson. She's known as Fergie. Sarah Ferguson is the ex-wife, divorced
Of
him when the
Andrew.
Epstein files dropped. Yeah,
Yeah.
of Prince Andrew. So Fergie is deeply connected to Ghislaine and Epstein. She owed Epstein money. She said things like, "My love and gratitude to you. I've never seen so much individual affection from somebody. Um, I desperately need the money. Why can't I be your house assistant? I'm the most capable. You're the brother I always wished for." She was supposed to be at Howard Lutnick's office on the morning of 9/11, and she wasn't.
Another one that seems clued in. It's
What was she
crazy.
supposed to be there for?
She was going to meet at an appointment for her charity organization on the 101st floor where they met.
The crazy thing too is I saw a video recently. I can plug it in here later, but talking about the anomalies in people shorting American Airlines and United Airlines right before, right
I haven't
before the
seen
Trade Center.
documentation on that one, but I know there's people that did it. It's a matter of
Yeah.
who.
And it was a matter of several standard deviations, above normal shorting activity, right? And it all
Mm.
coincides with this. And it's crazy because it definitely seems like there was some people clued in as to what was going on.
Yeah,
So,
and the same person who's deeply
See,
endowed to Jeffrey Epstein is also on the screen. I'm showing it right now. Sarah on her Instagram, she follows 849 people with her 789,000 followers. One of them's Howard Lutnick, and then on Howard Lutnick's Instagram, he only follows 146 people. He follows Sarah Ferguson, one of their few mutuals. So it's just like between the Hillary Clinton Foundation, where Epstein helped raise money. He did the same thing again in 2017 for another Wall Street dinner for 50K. There's a really weird mask at the dentist's office on the island that resembles Henry Lutnick. Trump's connected to Sarah Ferguson. There's just deep connections every direction you look. And it goes back to your original question of like, why isn't it headline news that there's a document for a like investment in a fintech company that has Howard's signature on it, and then the next page has Jeffrey's signature on it.
yeah, I think that's wild because everyone before I started looking at this that you had on all this work you made with this flow chart here, I had no idea that Howard Lutnick bought the property that all this was happening at next door to number 9 where Epstein was doing all this in New York City, that he had
Right.
bought that, so like does Howard Lutnick own property in Southern Florida?
I'm unaware. I'm unaware.
so I guess one of the things that I am scratching my head about, right? Like one of the things in the pit, and like we're all awakening, right? Seeing like the older generation with their older media sources and stuff. Like, why is it up to people like us to talk about all these connections? Like, why is the mainstream media not making these connections with, say, Israeli intelligence and Israeli influence? Like, why is it up to the common people like us to have to do this? Like, I feel betrayed by any form of, journalism, as far as journalism on TV, right? Your normal legacy news stations and everything. I just feel like, what are they? Why is it up to us?
You remember when Pam Bondi gave that answer the other day around Epstein, and she brought up the Dows at 50,000?
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
It's below 50,000 now. Now she has to answer questions
She
again. It's
has
below
to answer
28.
It's like the
now.
new. That's like the new. Honestly, the Dow below or above 50. That's like the new. Let them eat cake. To be honest.
Well, it's interesting because I think I think she's being completely truthful, and I think she's giving the best, actually probably the best argument for why the Epstein list isn't being released. The Dow's above 50,000, because if we were to truly investigate and prosecute and perp walk and put behind bars for lengthy periods of time each person that was truly involved, you're talking about the Bill Gates, you're talking about the Clinton foundations, you're talking about these private equity firms, you're talking about banks, you're talking about Walmart, Target, Amazon, Tesla, you're talking about all the big boys from the video and below, you're talking about every AI tech firm, you're talking about Peter Thiel's, you're talking about everybody. The stock market would collapse. One day shipping wouldn't be possible anymore.
You should let it burn.
And listen, 100%. Yeah. It's like that. It's like people tell me like, what's your best research? Like, what's the best thing I should go read or go watch? And I don't mean it, but I do mean it. It's like, go watch. This is your first thing. Like, yeah. Go watch the Lorax. Just go watch the Lorax and get to the part where they're talking about, let it grow. And the other guy's like, nah, let it die. That is it. That's it. It's we've been resold back every asset that's naturally available on this planet for somebody to have profit and power. And it sucks that we're the ones that it seems like we're the generation or last 40, 50 years, it's just become ever apparent little bit more at a time. But I just think that it's true that society would break. That's where it's like, every villain has that one piece where you're like, okay, I get this part. It's the other 99.9% of why you're doing it and how you're doing it. The 0.1% that I believe that they're probably rightful in, or at least make themselves feel just over, is America as we know it to fall apart. And they don't want that to happen.
Do you find it surprising though that they're not willing to? I mean, I guess you could say someone could make the argument with like a Prince Andrew that they are willing to give some people up in this that are like, on the periphery and not maybe as important or not maybe as well connected or maybe have more to lose.
Not
Like
Jewish.
at some point logic would at least lead me to think that there's some dividing factor between the billionaire classes that could make it so that way they split and one side rats out in the other, or are they all just so interwebbed and intertwined that pulling one out would lead to a domino effect?
I mean, the royal family traces back to one of the 13 main bloodlines. I think there's definitely control. How much does UK have to do right now with international geopolitics? Maybe that's the weakest link. And they're like, yeah, we can pop a few over there. Their stock market's not going to worry too much. You got to think about the scope of America. We're the world's ATM. We're every billionaire's trump card. We're the ace of spades for any investment portfolio internationally, from our land or stock market, everything. We keep the world going. 60% of the world's reserves are in the dollar. We have the number one bond market. We have the number one stock market. We have the number one private credit market. If things started to topple, they would topple seismically because we operate on so much credit right now. There's so much debt. There's so much owed to everybody. There's so much paying Peter to pay Tom, or borrow for Peter to pay Paul type stuff going on. You got a quadrillion-dollar derivative market. The world we know would collapse, and I think it should.
Yeah, I'm not really scared of the world kind of collapsing because a lot of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. uh it would affect me majorly. It would affect everyone, but the point
Mhm.
is I'm trying to say is like when it comes to like not getting free shipping on packages, as you were saying before, when it
No,
comes to
not
make
one day shipping. One,
one day
yeah,
shipping,
yeah, yeah, one day shipping.
but
Free
when
shipping
it comes to
maybe, because you have to get people to buy
things
stuff.
on
You
a
gotta have
business
attention.
sense,
Yeah.
things on a business sense, like I'm still going to be able to provide for my family when it comes to food
Maybe,
and
but what
home.
happens when the supply chain breaks down because the wholesaler that brings the groceries to your store isn't available?
Yeah, well,
Or what happens when
I
we gotta go to war over this and now gas is $6 a gallon and you can't get to work?
That's the point I'm trying to make, 'cause
Yeah.
I go out and I have a freezer full of deer meat and a freezer full of fish and stuff, so
There you go,
I
yeah,
go
if you
out
can
and do
hunt, you're
things around,
good. You
What
hunt.
but not
happens
everyone
when
has
the
that ability.
electricity goes out and
Yeah,
the
well,
deep
that's
freezer is
another
no
thing too.
longer
Exactly,
frozen?
exactly.
Right. Because that's the part too where again, national security, I think it truly is the justification for it. Because imagine a next in power type country like a China sees us start to flail. Oh, send over the drones and the EMP. Hit now. Like it's like hitting us when we're weak. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting conspiratorial and dark, but
Well,
there is a
especially when you
changing of the
go out
order that
your
seems
way
to be
to
happening over
tear
this.
down. Well, especially when Trump has gone out of his way to tear down, the NATO alliances and make those
Right.
weaker, and
The
Over
and
only
make it more
Greenland of
alliance
all
that
susceptible
places.
because even if the United States is weak, that's the one thing that's kind of kept everyone in fear of any real type
Military.
of large scale territorial aggressive war since World War II was not just the fear of NATO and the fear of being cast as an outcast country, but was the aggressive to territorial war is now technically illegal.
Right.
now it
So
just seems like the only people that are standing with us or we're standing with them right now is one government. That seems like we're aligned purely with the interests of one country with a white and blue flag, and that's about it.
And there are other countries we send money to. I mean, we just loaned money to Argentina, a country that hasn't done well with any of its loans in the past. I think it's like 0 for 8 in paying back loans. We've sent money. Wasn't the Congo we sent money out to? Or we got so much money wrapped up in this Iran war, and I think you're absolutely correct that if we do indeed strike, we're striking the opponent of Israel more so than the opponent of us. At least I haven't seen any evidence of these long range
I saw a
missiles that
really
we've been talking
funny
about for
meme
40
the other
years.
day that was saying that Israel has compromising information on the Epstein files on Donald Trump, and so they're controlling him in order to get him to start a war with to start a war with Iran.
I think it's
And then it said
plausible.
Iran has compromising information on Donald Trump, and they're trying to get him to start a war with Israel. And And then it's like, well, the only option here is to bomb Israel.
Yeah.
It made me
Wouldn't
laugh
it
when I saw it.
Yeah.
wouldn't it be kind of interesting though, right? If like kind of you're saying that I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, right? Like you're saying that potentially Trump was implicated way back when through the 70s and 80s with
90s, yeah.
Epstein and then in the 90s and then kind of if he does have any blackmail on him, right? Kind of doing the bidding of Israel or vice versa. But wouldn't it be interesting if that's kind of what it took for I don't want to say peace in the Middle East, but like for like what like what Randall was saying, like the only solution is to like I don't know. It's
If he was
the,
like, you guys have the death trigger from my reputation, so I'm just gonna sneak attack y'all, that would be great.
It would be pretty crazy.
He would be okay. Listen,
Because like
he would go to
when can you
jail.
pinpoint?
He would his name would be tarnished. His entire empire would fall apart. But like, if he just came out and said, "Look,
It would never happen.
it was me, and this guy was doing this, but here's how they're controlling our country, and I can't see our country go down the hole. Here's what's happening." We would at
Cut
least
his
look at him in
microphone.
history of like, at least he was a whistleblower.
Yeah.
whistleblower of
When
himself.
can you pinpoint though when it comes to Donald Trump?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Donald
I
Trump
just
was
don't know how the
famously
whole
I'm
not
glad you
raised.
picked up where I was going with that because it's like I mean
Donald Trump was famously not raised in the Jewish faith. And when can you pinpoint, his
conversion.
association kind of started with this cabal organization that
He
is
physically
running this.
converted.
And when I
He
say
physically
the
did
Jewish
convert
faith,
to
I don't mean
Judaism
that as the
recently.
cabal organization, but the people that are in that.
Well, and I think it was Miriam Adelson said somebody else said he's the best president or the greatest Jewish president of all time.
Greatest Jewish president, yeah.
When did he start getting involved? Man, it's weird because you look at like reports back from the 70s, and his nickname around town in New York was Don the Con, right? And in the late 70s, early 80s, he's one of the great mentees of Roy Cohn, a mobster lawyer who died of AIDS, hiding his bisexual orgies he would host and implicate people with blackmail.
But even back then, he was kind of a small fish. He kind of was a New York businessman. He wasn't like on world politics or not politics, but like
no,
even
that's a
world
fair
business.
point.
I don't know, man. He was in the movie Home Alone, and he was in like fucking Little Rascals
he's been
movie
pretty good
and
at that,
shit.
In my mind, I would try.
Let me offer you this theory. Upwards of 1999, he's running for president. There's actually documentation. There's interviews. He was trying to run for president, and he was running as a Democrat. And if you listen to a lot of his takes, they were vastly different from this. Okay, reality TV show kind of starting to falter. He's kind of on the flat line. He's got these businesses, but none of them really are producing super heavy. He's had bankruptcies in the past, just got bailed out by Russia 8-10 years ago. And you have all of this blackmail on the guy. I mean, who's to say he wasn't offered the opportunity to change his tune, and we're going to set you up to eventually run this thing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd say early 2000s, it seems like he changed his tune dramatically. So
you could say probably right around. I mean, I don't want to say that this is the situation, but like, let me paint a conspiracy theory. I should keep a tinfoil hat somewhere on my desk.
Yeah,
so
we
I
just
can
got
put
to
it
keep
on in some
saying
of these
allegedly, and
conversations.
we're good.
But like, let's paint me this conspiracy theory. If he's running around in the early 90s, late 80s with Jeffrey Epstein, doing Victoria's Secret model showcases for young teenage women, and he's getting plenty of dirt built up on him, and Jeffrey Epstein, I don't think anyone would disagree at this point, was running honeypot organizations for multiple intelligence gathering organizations for multiple foreign and domestic. I think I wouldn't be out very far in saying.
Right.
So then you build up all this stuff on Donald Trump because he's there with Donald Trump all the time. So they probably have the most stuff on Donald Trump with that stuff when it comes to they controlling, billionaire people in the industry. So they then have him start doing their bidding. You have to keep some facet of control on Donald Trump. So let's introduce someone into his family, right? I'm pretty sure someone in Donald Trump's family married into another very famous wealthy family that has a long history of
Kushner, right?
Jared Kushner.
Eric Kushner.
Jared Kushner. Yep.
And that happened in the early.
He's the one leading the Gaza negotiations.
That happened in the mid 2000s, like 2000. Well, when was she married to Jared?
I don't know. I know he had like a high rise, like some building fail for like $1 billion in New York, somewhere in like the 2018 range. I don't know when he got married.
It's just interesting to me to think that, if you're gonna have some form of like even right now, Jared Kushner is supposed to be advising on Donald Trump on the Iran situation.
Yeah, and then you
He's
got
one of Donald Trump's special advisors on Iran for this current Iran situation that's happening right now.
you look every direction you can find Israel, because you look every direction on the tech side, you see Larry Ellison, Mark Andreessen, and Peter Thiel. And then you got Howard Lutnick, JD Vance in the cabinet. You got Pam Bondi, who was funded by a fraudulent Trump donation back in
It's
2013.
the thing though is it's not just Israel for me. It's bigger than that too, because like you look at his father, Eric
all
Kushner,
intelligence
and
organizations
his
around.
in connections to all sorts of activities.
Right.
And he's
And
also
he's
currently
no small
the
name. The Trump name's been around for a while. I think it was his grandpa. You guys heard this, right? When Tesla died?
no, I don't know anything about what
When
you're talking.
Nikola, I think it was his great or his grandfather, could have been his great uncle, a Trump last name. When Tesla died, who was famous for at the time trying to figure out how you could create, I think it was like 1 point energy, something like that, where is basically use the air for electric.
Yeah, he's trying to transport it through the ground.
Okay, the ground,
Yeah, through
got
the
it.
ground.
The person that got called in when he died to examine his papers and decide what needs to be taken, what can be released, was his grandpa.
Oh, I did hear that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
it's
heard
like
that. He
he's
got
got
like
a
a
fresh
briefcase full of
name.
Nikola Tesla's papers. Yeah, I heard that.
Right. Like when people say, "Oh, well, reality stars are president." He's like, actually, he was tied up in a lot of mob shit in like the 70s.
Yeah. What do you think? So here's something I run into with people who are kind of, I would say, more or less blind supporters of Trump with what he's doing. It's some people in my family will say, well, we just don't like that people will go into public service and they'll get rich. Like they weren't a quote unquote capitalist before they were a public servant. They went
Mhm.
in and they got rich on the flip side, and they can't see that. So they'll say, well, Trump's a capitalist, so of course he's going to be able to increase his wealth. But it's kind of crazy to me that like they're giving Trump and his family such a huge pass at the wealth accumulation that's happening simply because he was a capitalist before he went in, right? Not like your traditional kind of lawyer, public servant,
Mhm.
politician, right? It's crazy the disconnect that happens, at least for me. Like I don't understand how, increasing your wealth by billions is somehow less than increasing your wealth from hundreds of thousands into the millions with some of these other presidents and politicians we've had. It's pretty insane to me that he gets a pass for this.
Well, what I'd say is the core debate around is what is he utilizing to pull that wealth in? And if it were just simply his name or what he was already doing, like maybe that argument could be made. But when you're selling Bibles and gold watches and leveraging your political relationships to insider trade and launching crypto coins in your family's
Yeah, it's like
names,
cryptocurrencies and getting paid
right?
by foreign donors who know it can track where your donations come from, which is against the emoluments clause. Getting
It's
paid in $500 million planes.
And the question I would ask somebody and John, to answer your question, because I do have a lot of these conversations now. I'm a realtor turned economic nerd turned into what the heck's going on. It's both sides of the coin going on right now. This is just the latest iteration. And I love that Massey and others have brought up that this is a multi-generational cover up, not just a Trump cover up. I think that's a great way of putting it, um, involving those three-letter agencies.
Yeah, the
Right.
the billionaire class, multi-generational. I've heard that too.
Anytime there's opposition or admiration, I'm like, if someone says, "Hey, man, I've listened to your podcast. I really like your podcast." I'll happen. So I'm like, "That's dope, dude. What made you listen to the podcast?" I'm going to blah blah blah. When I go to my work, I'm like, "Oh, where do you work?" It opens up conversation. I do the same thing with the opposition. Like a question to that is like, "Okay, I hear that. So how does that benefit you?" Would probably be my first question out of that, and they're gonna have a hard time answering that. They're gonna have a hard time playing mental gymnastics on how Trump's benefiting his own net worth is benefiting them. Um, and another question would be, well, so is the presidential position a place where wealth should be the focus, or your wealth should be the focus? Our wealth should be the focus, because I'm struggling to see that.
Right, this is where I
we had
think
our
Randall talked about fanboying or simping for billionaires, right? Like this is where you
Yeah,
say to
yeah
big
them,
time.
like, you are
we had
literally simping
our
for
first
billionaires right
contrarian
now.
on we had our first contrarian on last week, and when trying to nail him down on stuff like that, I would ask him, like where would you draw the line for Donald Trump, where you would sacrifice your support, and like what would be the deciding factor? And I said, he said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he'd still get your vote, kind of thing. And his first bit, which I thought was great, was, if it could ever be shown to me that he knowingly broke the law, then I wouldn't support him anymore. And I was like, okay, well that's easy. Like I can show you 15 different times where he knowingly broke, like the well,
Yeah.
and then when you pull these things up,
1971, he was sued for not giving black people rights to
oh
the
yeah,
tenant property. Yeah.
whole bunch.
And then the
Yeah.
E. Jean Carroll, he
When
argued
you
that
point
that
these
was a
out to him,
civil, not
he would
criminal.
just say, I don't know enough about that situation in order to make a judgment. Or he would say, like when I point out, how does this make the U.S. safer? Like how does threatening Greenland, threatening Denmark, our allies, how does that make the U.S. safer? And he would say, like, well, presidents and people in power have geopolitical, bargaining abilities that they do in negotiations, and sometimes it's not all above the board, so that way the populace doesn't see the real deals that are happening below the table. And it's like, and I'm like, all right, so in your own mind, you have to tell yourself that the situation is so fucked up that maybe they're getting the deal done under the table and you just
Yeah,
can't
my
see it.
follow-up to that would have been, and are you okay with that?
Yeah, there was, yeah, and
Yeah.
and it was,
Yeah.
and I got jumped on for, I guess, jumping on him too many times, but not letting him speak. But you should check it out if you got enough time in your
If you ever want
travels
to host a
that you want to
debate, I'd
laugh.
happily have one. I'd
Oh
happily
yeah,
have one
we
with a
we
staunch
could
Democrat or Republican.
yeah we
But
could have an opposing view on what we're talking for sure. That'd be pretty
Sure.
cool.
You guys could be the moderators. That'd be dope.
Yeah. Well,
oh,
so
that'd be
what?
awesome. But
Okay.
it's like nailing gel to the wall with a lot of these voters, where they want to feel that sense of tribalism. My side is better than
Yes.
your
We
side,
want
and they don't
community.
realize that both sides are incredibly toxic. But right now the Democrats aren't in any power. So what is complaining about Democratic leadership going to do? I think Chuck Schumer's got to go. I think Hakeem Jeffries has got to go, especially with their votes that they just did earlier today, where they made it so you don't have to have an outstanding vote on your record as a senator for uh, any future vote that would take place for declaring war against Iran.
Yeah,
That
I think
was
that
one
we're
of the most
stuck.
consequential things that's ever happened in the United States in the past, like, my lifetime, past 30 years of politics, is whether or not you supported the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
And people being held accountable for their votes for the war in Iraq.
And I think that there's a lot of people right now who are just kind of saying, like, well, the last administration didn't do anything. This is a Democrat hoax. Or the catch-all is doesn't matter. They're all corrupt. Right. So I feel like we're stuck in the spot because of that, like with the contrarian we had on last week, where we just don't get anywhere because they're rooted in the fact that, well, the other side didn't do anything this whole time. So what does it mean moving forward? Who do we put our faith in moving forward? And they're essentially, because of that, they're entrenching themselves further right. Even they're entrenching themselves further over there because they still do think that Donald Trump is the sliver of hope that they have.
The only legal option we have as a populace is to vote people into power that aren't gonna, sacrifice their morals or sacrifice their running points. And you
Yeah,
got
but
people
I'll
like,
devil's advocate that. I think it's been sold.
I
If
agree. No, I
Kamala
completely
was
agree. That's
president,
that's why I said the
it's
only
not
I
gonna
legal
agree
option.
too.
right.
You're
I mean,
gonna have
just think
people
of the
like
last
Fetterman.
opposing Democratic people: Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Do you see or hear George Washington like, Thomas Jefferson like, right? Really, really, you got to look back probably to go back to, whether you like them or not. Obama and Bush at least knew how to hold a room, knew how to lead through a conversation. At the very least, Obama's a very good speech giver, funny, blah, blah, blah. Put all policy to the side. They have presidential
Nice
character.
tan suit.
Right, they have presidential characteristics. Clinton, you know, he liked a blowjob every now and then, but he had political characteristics. Reagan, Nixon. These current ones don't have that. And
Yeah,
I feel
Bush
crazy for
carried
saying that. Like,
a
these are
lot
the
of negative
two?
problem
Like,
for
you
me.
want to take over the Democratic side, and this is who you bring us?
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
and
your
it's
king?
crazy too because we talked about this a little bit before, but like my voting record and stuff, being conservative and liberal, right, and finding myself more just in the kind of anti-Trump side. I'm not even going to say liberal or Democrat, just like the what the hell is going on here.
Which I think
And
attracted a lot of blue votes last year.
yeah, yet I'm looking at like what Massey's doing. I'd be like, dude, if there was some way that I knew Massey wouldn't like totally just flip back to Republican establishment, I might vote for him. You know, like
Yeah.
I would vote for that. Randall's, I don't know, shaking his head over there or not, but
Yeah, because a scumbag. But that's okay. He's allowed to be a hero on some issues.
Well, guys, I got to dip. I gotta get on a plane. I would say to the ticket thing, whether it's Massey or Kana or News, whoever, let's get freaky with it. Like, let's get a blue-red card. Like, give me something nasty. Give me an AOC Massey card. Like, give me something fun. Like, why can't we get both sides in the executive branch? I don't understand. If we have
That's what it used
we
to
have
be a long
mixed
time ago.
Congress,
You had to pick your
we have a
your
mixed
stand-in.
judicial, but we don't have a mixed executive side. I don't know. Maybe it'd just be a
Travel
conflict.
safe, Zach. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming in.
thank you for
I
coming
know
on the
how busy you
podcast,
are.
buddy.
Appreciate y'all, guys. Hey, have a good one, and I can't wait to come back soon.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're more than
Thank
welcome.
you for coming
See you
back
guys.
to the Knights of the Round Table. Have a good one, Zach.